Hello, how are you? I forgot to push the button for the song.
That's okay. We're just slamming right into it.
You know, sometimes I don't even want to hear the song. So I'm
That's
more surprised when other people are like, "Oh, you got to play that song like twice or whatever," and I'm like, "That's terrible. Like these are terrible, bad songs that are song crimes that I made with the song crime program."
I mean, one, if there isn't a program called Sound Crime, there should be.
There should be.
And
My
two,
my my first shitty basement album of music that I've made on BandLab should be called Song Crime.
I mean, and don't sell yourself short, Benjamin.
Just,
Look, I get not liking anything that you've ever created ever because I've been there, but I think it's good stuff. So
ugh. It was pretty funny. Last night we were watching a Matt Draper video on unmade John Carpenter projects,
oh man, that would be
and
painful to watch just for not.
I think
No,
the only one I was very like, oh man, I really wish this would have gotten made was his Creature from the Black Lagoon
mm,
remake, because they had like Stan Winston had already done like the monster designs. You can go and you can find pictures,
oh wow,
and the monster design is really really cool. Um, Also, it was going to be more about how the monster is not the bad guy. Of course, we're the bad guy
yeah,
because we're,
usually.
yeah, yeah, because usually we are the bad guy. Um, but there was other stuff. I mean, like I like all the escape stuff. I even like Escape from LA because I feel like it was done that way on purpose,
Oh yeah,
um,
it was very intentional.
which I don't think people got.
I get where people were coming at it expecting something different or wanting something different, but I think for what it is,
Um, but the fact they were going Escape from Earth was going to be the last,
yeah, I think I had heard something
the
about
um, and that they even at one point were going to do it as a TV show, and then they were going to do it as an anime, and it just nothing has ever come about from it.
that.
Um, Makes me sad. He said he never had any intention and probably never will have any intention to go back and do the very first escape thing, which was from Cleveland.
Oh yeah.
And I was heartbroken over that.
Mm.
I love the idea that the very first kind of big thing that Snake Plissken does is somehow involves escaping from Cleveland, which means that at some point in the not too distant totalitarian future that we're all probably still speeding towards, um, Cleveland is worse there than it is now, and I just don't know how that's humanly possible.
Well, it might just be that they had to escape from it for other reasons, but yes, I don't know if it's a prison, but could be that would fit with the theme.
Depends on which part of Cleveland, I guess, because like, did you know about all those indictments that happened to all those police officers in West Cleveland?
I don't, but I mean,
Like over half the department,
yeah.
and they're not just they're being charged,
Well,
and
that's
the crimes are wild. Um, it was a systemic issue across the board.
yeah, almost like policing is terribly broken and needs to be completely rebuilt from nothing.
Yeah, so I kind of when I was watching that, I was like, oh, that would be oddly
Yeah.
prophetic. But yeah, so there was he was playing like Carpenter music as the music for his thing, and Cassandra was like, "This sounds like this sounds like the CSI music, but it's like slowed down." And I'm like, "It's the Escape from New York music, and it's at regular speed." And she was like, "Well, I'm not saying that he stole." I was like, "I hope you're not saying you stole it because that movie came out in like '79, maybe early '80s." And she was like, no, 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 no. And then it went for a little while longer. And she's like, did you steal this music? And I was like, I didn't steal it, but I definitely, if I stole it, it would be better. I pastiched it real hard, but I did not steal it. It would be good if I stole it. None of mine is good. So, yeah, it was pretty good. I always find it funny that she'll humor me to watch things like that.
Hey, Shaggy.
Hey, Shagalicious.
How you doing this morning? I can't remember if we had anything we were working on. It sounded like Colin was going to maybe come on too, but you might have Father's Day stuff.
Yeah, I'm working on Down Outlands this morning.
Okay.
I've been up since 5. I should have probably got this done by now, but
Oh, that's what we're here for, is to help. And
I did not know that Heracles married Hebe. Hebe? I don't know how you say that name. What the pronunciation was. How do you pronounce?
Hebe.
Oh, is it Hebe?
Yeah.
I didn't know her and Heracles, were married. So I did a bunch of Hera looking up today. Earlier, I feel like I got pretty good backbone. I just need to come up with a rap, and then I need to a cliffhanger, and then I need to come up with secrets and clues. And fantastic locations, I think, are pretty easy this time. It's just going to be the Peacock Court.
Well, cool. You went to Collision, Shaggy, but I get that. I'm sure a fair amount of that crowd was probably just there to say they were there, and not because they cared about the show necessarily.
I heard the show was very good.
That's what I have heard as well.
I also found myself very much enjoying the "Tell Me When I'm Telling Lies" repetition. But I also enjoy CM Punk, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with it as well. I find that I have lost a lot of my enjoyment of the Elite. Even before that, I think you can do the underdog shtick all you want, but the moment you're the person pulling the strings,
sure,
and you're repetitively in the main event, and it's just the same shit over and over again. Like I can't think of like anything that those two have the Bucks have done that I find interesting at all in All Elite that isn't attached to Omega and Page. Like I know people didn't care much for the Codyverse stuff, but I feel like the Bucks they're not too far away from that. Like, can you name a feud that they've had as a tag team that's done anything?
I mean, I don't follow it, so I mean, I catch highlights.
Even when you were following
stuff.
It's been
I've never followed it, but
oh really? You were out at that point?
I've just never. Yeah, I mean, like that was I was kind of at a just wrestling's been weird for me for a while, and so I don't have a way to watch it, and I've never cared enough to dig into it. So I mean, I'm definitely like aware of things that are going on, but without actually following it, I don't want to say, oh, this is crap or this isn't, because I don't know the storylines.
Yeah, I mean, and in the end, I hope it's just all a way for them to all make money. But
Well, yeah, I mean that's
but it also is just kind of like I don't know. I think when you, for me as someone who enjoys parts of wrestling still, I appreciate a good promo. Promo? Okay, promo. And I thought he killed it, which is kind of his MO anyway. To me, it's a lot. There's guys who I can just watch talk, and I think that they are amazing because of that skill. That's fair. I mean, I guess, but I guess I always look at matches where people come out even in a loss better than they went in. And I can't think of anybody the Bucks have elevated that way. I can't. I mean, maybe Top Flight, maybe. But like, I don't think they helped Lucha Bros. They certainly didn't help FTR. They killed FTR's momentum.
I don't think. I mean, yeah, they didn't. The Lucha Bros didn't need from the Bucks, I guess is.
So I kind of look at like. So I would say this. I mean, a match can be great in live, but I more look at it kind of long term wise. If you're the guy on top, don't you want to make more people for you to make more stuff on top with, to make more money? And I think since All Elite Wrestling has become a thing, I think Omega. Maybe I'm just going to start saying Kenny Omega. Omega has helped elevate people when he's been in the ring with them. I think Paige is the guy they poured all their energy into to make into something, and I think they've done a pretty good job with that. I mean, they literally gave him the Dark Order after Mr. Brody Lee passed away.
Yeah.
And I don't think Hangman makes those guys better. I think those guys made Hangman more entertaining. Because I can remember going to ROH shows and us chanting that you're a bum, Adam Page, and him being so flustered that he couldn't even like talk back. I was like, oh God, this guy like physically can do stuff, but like, of course, this was when he was with BJ Shitmer, aka the Human Penis. But I look at Punk. I think that Punk that dog collar match with MJF made MJF elevated him. That whole feud did. I mean, Punk lost technically 2 out of 3 falls with him. I do feel like, I felt like the thing with Eddie Kingston should have ended differently to get Eddie elevated even more. But I mean, still, they had some incredible microphone time. I'm just like, if you're going to bring big guys in towards the tail end of their careers, and I do feel like the Bucks are on the back end of their careers.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega is. I think Paige is in the prime, but they should be looking to build up folks.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking Punk did the job to Wardlow, and he didn't just get beaten that match, or he got killed. He won the match, but that was a Brock Lesnar level ass beating. So I don't know. I don't always like everything that Pepsi Man Phil says. I find him to be sometimes purposefully abrasive. but I do agree with more often than not what he's saying. So I had a very much like a, and I think the self awareness. So one thing too, I'll just say is, just because you tell everybody you're an asshole and then proceed to act like an asshole isn't a free pass. I've known a couple people like that, and I don't think just because you go around and you try to diffuse things by telling everybody that you're a piece of shit or that you're a
Yeah.
bad person.
At some point, it's, and I get that at work where people are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know," and it's like that works like the first 2 times, and then after that, it's like, okay, now it's just you. Like, you just need to change or stop doing this shit because you saying, "Oh, I know I'm wrong," or "Oh yeah, I'm an asshole." It's like, well, then just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of some of that in some ways too. Like there's certain things that if I don't do them repetitively, I can't remember how to do them. Like the process just doesn't stick. And I will have to ask repetitively, like, hey, can you show me do this again? Because it's not something that, that I've had to do a lot of, and it's not something I'm like, I mean, honestly, mentally and super invested in. But I
Sure.
could be better about it just by saying, can we record this so I can refer back to it inevitably when I have to do this again because you're on vacation or whatever.
Yeah, and you're taking steps on to try and
Or I'll reach out. But like Friday, I had something like that, and everyone I reached out to was gone or didn't respond. So I literally have like one thing I need to do that I couldn't do because I couldn't remember how to do this one little task in order to move on to finish it. And I know it's easy. I just fucking cannot for the life of me remember how to do it. I had to ask last month again to somebody. I was like, can you show this to me again? Because I literally can't remember how to do this. So I think when I get that person comes back and we can walk through it, I'm just like, can I record this? Because I'm tired of asking. It's so frustrating to have to ask repetitively because you just can't fucking remember it. You've been shown it over and over again, and it just doesn't get any foothold in your mind. But that's not much better. That's somewhat inexcusable. But I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it's for me. It's more like I'm not gonna like. There's shit I forget how to do because I don't ever do it. That I get. It's when like it's like a sales rep or whatever, and it's like this shit is like there's variations on a theme, but like the information is out there for you, and this helps you make money.
Yeah.
So why are you acting like this is the hardest thing in the world to retain? I get there's a lot they're getting thrown at them, but like, I don't know if it's like, me doing this thing legitimately makes me more money, like, because they're directly tied that way. It's like, well, then, why don't you give a shit?
Yeah, I think
force people to give a shit.
I do think, like, getting back to kind of the original portion of it, that I don't understand that like mindset of I'm a bad person, and then that person will not be a bad person, and then when it's convenient for them, then they are a bad person, and they're like, look, I told you I was a bad person.
I think it's an out. Yeah, I mean it's a tool, because it's if you it's like, well, I warned you.
Yeah.
I told you this was who I was, and then I wasn't for a while, but now that it's convenient or easier for me, I have the out because I've established this ahead of time.
I think I have a hard time with that.
So that's your fault then.
Because I try to be who I am and be transparent about it. Like, I know I'm not easy to get along with all the time. I know I can be very black and white thinker sometimes. And I know that, I can be definitely just difficult overall. And I recognize that. And I own that. But I don't understand when people are like purposefully. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway. So yeah, when Mr. Pepsi Man Phil does that, I'm like, come on, dude.
Right.
Um, but what are you going to do? I guess we should do this prep.
If you want.
I don't know what I want to do, Matt.
That's fair. You don't have to either.
I need to get it done because I have this tomorrow. Um, so what would you suggest, or Shaggy, who I think is the only person who's here? Um, I'm trying to think of like how to describe Hera's like court.
Hmm.
That would be the prime setting, I think.
Okay. Yeah, recap us on what your take on Hera is.
My take on Hera is pretty simple. I think that Hera is the woman scorned. I don't want, but it's still kind of holding that the haughty matriarch who, and I don't want to fall into kind of tropiness. I feel like I
Sure.
avoided that really well with Hades and Persephone, so I kind of want to do that with Hera. I'd like to kind of do it with all of them, because plus I think that the whole like overwhelming trope of the Olympians can kind of get overdone.
Yeah.
My trope on Hera, my feeling on Hera is someone who feels like her position is constantly being gunned for by anyone with a charisma over 18, and has the attention of her husband's libido. So she kind of has to be like a hard ass, I guess, like anything that, for lack of a better term, humanizes her is probably not a good thing for her in her mind.
Okay.
But I also don't want to Karenize her.
Right.
Because I feel like that's a slippery, easy slope to fall down with Hera.
Okay.
So like I know one thing that I see in a lot of this stuff I read about her this morning, like visually, she's very beautiful, but very regal. That's the thing to keep going back to. Almost like if Aphrodite's unknowable beauty and Athena is untouchable beauty, meaning that it's like beauty that you like dangerous beauty, that Hera is, kind of a unattainable beauty.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. 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 I guess I would then, to my mind, then, and there was I know it's a real thing, but it was a line in a book that I had read a while ago that kind of, stuck in my mind. And they were describing it was a place, and it was, nobody lived there full time. It was just kind of used for like when bigwigs were in town and they would stay in this house, or if they needed to host an event, they would do this thing. So the line in there was, books bought by the yard. So there was, everything was just designed by somebody else, and it didn't look like, anybody really, and it all looked very nice and, put together and considered, but there was no personal attachment, you know, almost like, like, yeah, I'm going to just put this stuff up because that's what people expect. And it's going to make it feel like a place that people live, but there's still that remove. Like a furniture showroom or a hotel.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking too. It's almost like pomp and circumstance for the sake of pomp and circumstance.
Yeah. Or even like, like you live in a museum or something where it's like, okay, none of this stuff, like you don't do anything with any of this stuff. None of this stuff is yours, really. You just put it there, got it because, you thought it would look fancy or cool or whatever. Hey, Super Spike, glad you could join us for a little bit anyway. What are you doing in Montana? Yeah, maybe a little bit of that, like, or if you know,
all the cushions are covered in plastic.
yeah, or it's like, this is I'm gonna do like Danny had said, like her grandma had like, like here's the room where it's all just like dolls and nobody goes in the room, but the dolls are in there. And I'm gonna put like throw rugs on carpeted floors that I trip over all the time, but I want to put rugs on the floor, even though it will kill me because I'm an old lady. And then, yeah, that could give you the opportunity to, if there is a space somewhere in there that is just hers, to get a glimpse into, what she actually is or who she actually views herself as.
Okay, I like that. That's very good. I think I put up here too that like Hephaestus and Ares are both there because they're her actual sons with Zeus, and that Ares should be like the "you're not my brother, even my half brother" type of thing. Like you sully my mother's name by being here. You sully my mother's name by existing. Like, and being very like, so get the fuck out.
Okay.
And I'm unsure again. I'll do Harry's, but Hephaestus, I kind of want to do like. Have you ever seen the Adventures of Baron von Munchausen?
It's been a while, but yes.
Hephaestus is just kind of very much Brian Blesseding it up.
Oh, yeah.
I like that version of Hephaestus.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch. So I kind of like the idea of Hephaestus as being like consumed with making an Aphrodite, his wife.
Okay.
Doesn't give a shit about Ares. Maybe there's the inkling that Ares covets his wife. But just kind of like a kind of general like yawn. Yeah, I know your mom's favorite. I don't fucking care. He's like the son who like Hera can call to do like a task, who's not going to be like, I'm busy making a war in the Crimea, which is like, Ares is like, I would love to help you, Mom. I love you, but I've got these stonks to take care of.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas Hephaestus is like, let me finish fixing this weed eater and I'll be there in like a half hour. I kind of like the very dutiful kind of son. I'm the son who is the one like mom points to and says, look what my boy has done. Kind of thing. I feel like that's a very relatable dynamic as well. Yeah, I would think like Ares reminds you a little bit of a crypto bro. And this in my head for
so like is all of the like most of the shit in there made by Hephaestus then? Like
I would assume made by Hephaestus, or it's even like was there from the Titans, or it's from other realms or whatever. So I kind of am looking at it as like, if they can point out rise and grind your enemy's bones, that if they can point out like, oh, who made this or whatever, Hephaestus like, I made that. Or a lot of it would be like, maybe he didn't even make that. He's like, oh, I made the case for that. Like, whereas the case might even outshine the actual object. So,
or just like the like, or if there is anything in there that he didn't make, he'll be like, yeah, it's nice, but here's what I would do differently. And...
Yes, but don't tell mom I said that. All right, well, so we'll say Hephaestus is the responsible second child, or how would I put that? Um, that makes sense.
So he's doted on by the mom. Is how I read that.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's internalized that to mean that he's the best.
I kind of, even if not, I kind of think of Ares as someone who does feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has to be the winner. Everything is a battle. Everything is war. And I'm the god of war. I have to win. I think we've all probably met someone who's like that.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's I've got that with an uncle and to some degree my father-in-law, where that's even like a conversation is something to win.
Yeah.
And if you take Hephaestus' nature a little bit further, the idea that he would be trying to build rapport and relationships as well as physical objects.
Oh, I like that. But maybe he's bad at it.
No.
Maybe that's part of he and Aphrodite's marriage counseling. Oh, God damn it, Mitch. Oops. My brain. If conversed with, he will disclose that while it is easy to build objects, he has found it very difficult to build relationships with others. If the conversation proceeds deeper, he'll talk about he and Aphrodite's marriage counseling sessions and how he is working to improve upon this. Such a weird but fun little thing.
Yeah. I could also see with Ares, since it is a battle, he's also maybe going to be the guy who's like, oh, I could get that done cheaper or faster than you could. I know a guy, or
maybe I think of Ares a little more meticulous than that.
Okay.
I also don't think of Ares as like someone who's outwardly mocking.
Okay, that's
I think
true.
of Ares more as prodding. It's like
Yep.
I think of him like I don't think so. I think of Ares as arrogant to a degree, but I also think that some of that might be like just defense mechanism. Oh, I like that, or like a Jersey mobster. That's not a bad. I'm trying to. I don't want to turn Ares into Tony Soprano, but
yeah.
I'm trying to think of it like maybe like tracksuit and all. I maybe thinking of him as like very analytical.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead, like almost because one thing I think is they a lot of times like I see him in media portrayed as being like very like just ready to fight constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, in Marvel comics back in the day, especially, but in like more recent incarnations, I always thought Ares is basically the Punisher. I kind of felt like during Bendis's run, that's basically what they turned Ares into. Is like, I'm super powered Punisher.
Yeah, a little bit.
I even have a skull on my chest. Look,
Mm.
I was like, wow, this is just. Does he have no real discernible personality? I guess.
They've tweaked him a little bit.
Yeah, and then he died.
Well, he's back
Yeah,
because
of course he is.
we'll see
I like this Mitch. I like
what they
'cause
did with him. What they did with him, or what Jason Aaron did with him in the recent Punisher series, is had him. He was basically like, well, my whole deal is to make war, so I'm an arms dealer. I'm going to round up and create like all the crazy shit. Like, oh, here's a gamma machine gun, and I'm gonna find a way to make that, and my disciples are gonna sell it to Hydra or AIM or the fucking Magia or whoever the hell will buy it, because and we're gonna sell it to everybody. So kind of like almost a little bit like Destro in GI Joe, where it's like I'm gonna sell weapons to whoever will buy them, and if the other side, if there isn't a war going on, I'll go in and tell the guys like, hey, that other guy was talking shit about you, because the end goal is to make people fight, not to there's no greater goal beyond that.
so I do kind of look at him like from that perspective as the guy who is analytical from the sense of he's evaluating constantly like
Yeah. Oh
how
yeah.
to get at you. So one person he might berate because
Yeah.
he knows it instigates them. But someone else he might just be like, I'm extremely disappointed in you. Or someone else he might just ignore because they're just they're beneath his time and effort. Blood money for the blood god.
Mm.
Yeah, I like the idea of De Niro in Casino as well, or more De Niro in Goodfellas, where he's like the guy holding the leash. And it's very much like I find him in that movie to be always looking to improve his standing in that. So I don't know. I'm just it's or even like was it Sam Rockwell doing Jason Hammer?
Oh, just a hammer. Yeah.
Jason Hammer. Just trying to figure out like a good hook for that, but it's hard because it yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good parallel. I mean, you've got some good ones for sure.
I think I've got a bunch of parts. I don't
Yeah.
have a whole. I've got a Frankenstein monster of ideas. Almost. It's true.
Mm.
It's very true. Does that work? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do like the idea that um, Festus is aware of the nature of his brother, especially since Aphrodite disclosed in counseling her and Athena's bet with Ares about the nature of man. So,
Is he? I mean, there's kind of like a Patrick Bateman vibe
oh, that's perfect.
with Ares.
I agree. So one thing I was thinking of too is I know this is very stereotypical, but in some cases, and I don't want to get into that, but I have worked with some folks with things like ASD, and I've worked with some folks who have anti-personality, anti-social personality disorders, um, people who have homicidal ideation. And one thing that I've seen a lot of also individuals who have like borderline personality disorder, and I don't think a lot of it's time it's done with. So I will always say I don't know if I find a lot of those people to be people who are going to outscore you on the IQ test, but I find them to be very cunning by way of it's a survival instinct. I mean,
Yeah.
if I'm already being looked down upon because of this, I'm going to have to find ways to survive,
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I've seen is I've literally watched people, especially those individuals who have high behavioral needs, prod, very much in that cold and calculating Patrick Bateman fashion. And whenever they're called on things, they pop. I mean, when they pop, sometimes it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like they're not even in control. Like, and they'll tell you afterwards that they're not in control. And it's really hard to watch because, you can tell how humiliating and frustrating and heartbreaking it is to not be in control of yourself. And I look at, and I'm not trying to say Patrick Bateman is a sympathetic character,
No.
but like watching someone who is lost control of their faculties in that moment because they have no emotional regulator. And I guess I'm thinking like when I think of the analytical portion, kind of that stereotypical, Sherlock analytical autistic mind that's not really how autism works, but kind of that, I'm seeing everything moving at once type of mindset. But also whose interest view is so narrow that they don't realize like that they can't see things they don't expect. But I love the Patrick Bateman, the extremely well put together, almost like the outward appearance is something that it should be in the Peacock court. hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
But you know that there's something going on there, like that's just under the surface, that there's something you don't want to fuck with, because it'll put on Huey Lewis in the News and a raincoat. So yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I don't know that I would, you know, like like it's that there's a loss of control for him. It's more,
But I think there is to some degree.
or is it just that there's this part of him that he knows that he can't let people see most of the time, but every now and then he's like, "No, fuck it, here you go. This is me."
I agree, Shaggy. It's one of the harder things I think to do in the field when working with individuals who have, you know, varying disabilities, is when you see somebody who has completely and utterly lost control of themselves. They see that they have, but they can't. The emotional dysregulation has so far superseded any ability to personally de-escalate, override all coping mechanisms, and they know it. I've had people describe it afterwards as being trapped in your own body. I had someone once with FASD, fetal alcohol syndrome, explain to me that when they started to escalate, they felt like they were a muscle car going downhill 100 miles an hour with no brakes. And as hard as they pumped the brakes, it was too late. You know, they were going to get to the crash. It was just a matter of how big the crash was going to be. And they knew how horrible that was going to be, because that crash didn't just affect them. They got to walk away from the crash. But sometimes the other people around them didn't, because it destroyed those relationships. Sometimes it destroyed their property. Sometimes it meant them going to jail. You know, they knew it wasn't going to work out, but they just couldn't stop because they're missing a component of their brain that gives them that skill. And that's really hard to watch someone go through. So yeah, it's brutal. I think when I think of Aries, I look at that as less sympathetic. I think Matt is more just like, there's a veneer there, and you don't want to see the veneer of the thin line between the general who calls for death and the person who commits the atrocity. You know, because I think that you're talking about basically a primordial being that is made for, built for, and makes its, you know, living more or less off of war.
Yeah,
they've swung the axe probably quite a bit on their own, and generally people who've done it like that don't feel real bad about it. I mean, what's the line?
Yeah.
What's the line? You kill one, you're a murderer. You kill hundreds, you're a sociopath. Yeah, but yeah, if you kill thousands, you're a conqueror.
And if you kill everyone, you're a god.
Yep.
Yeah, the idea that he would be remorseful, I guess, is you know, that doesn't.
Yeah, I would subtract that completely. I don't think Aries is a god who can, on his own, actuate remorse. I don't think that is something that. I think if he's forced to see it,
sure.
If it's forced upon him, like in the sense of he loses a battle and it's shown to him that way, like the battle is to show him. Yes, that's exactly it. There's the veneer of civility, and it can be peeled away. I don't think Aries is much of an onion. that skin is real thin. That's why I think Patrick Bateman is a really good analysis, because I think I've never read the book. I've heard it's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think Christian Bale's just kind of condescending sneer and barely concealed rage, especially at things like the business card scene.
Yeah.
Is a perfect example of like what I'm picturing in my head.
Yeah, it's that, you know, there is I think it makes sense given that he's been doing it for so long and is the god of it, that he would be, he's not, it's going to take a little bit more to kind of kick him off than um a lot of people, but I still feel like there's that, like, you know I need to win this conversation, I need to win this dinner, I need to win this, like, he's tallying that shit up where it's like, oh, you beat me in a game of darts, that's not gonna stand.
I just
Yeah.
realized the light coming in behind me is like lens flare light. Like this is being shot by J.J. Abrams. My office, my cluttered
There's
office currently is like being shot by J.J. Abrams.
and I feel like there's a bit of that, not for like good, or not for noble reasons, but maybe a bit of that, like, um Batman thing where it's like, I need to be the best at everything.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. That's also an interesting way to put it.
Well, and it works with Hephaestus as well, because Ares is, I mean, what is war if not to destroy?
Yeah,
And Hephaestus builds. So that they each are really good at the one thing the other, like, can't do.
yeah, and I agree, Mitch. I think it is kind of when we have like a God damn it, Shaggy, that was really good. I think it's very much, Mitch. It's that idea of the veneer of civility is the chess playing portion of it. It's like it's the prodding for weakness. It's seeing where your defenses are, and then beneath that, like when the shit hits the fan, is the terrifying. Like I am war. I'm war without, and that's the thing too. I think when it comes to that point, he's war without purpose because it's not war based upon death, because that's not what he cares about. He doesn't care if you live or die or suffer or whatever. He just wants war.
Yeah.
He wants winners and losers. So, and by having winners and losers, he is the winner.
Yeah.
So I also see him as someone who likes to kind of create conflict between people.
Yes, absolutely.
So I could see him as a bit of a shit disturber.
Yeah, I think for him, it's not a loss, but his goal isn't to get involved personally.
I see him as well as someone who is one of those people that walks with their hands behind their back.
Mm.
For some reason I'm seeing him drawn by Frank Quietly in my head. Probably in something Morrison has written.
Sure.
But kind of like in that kind of Luther-esque way.
Yeah.
Of like very commanding, like I don't know how to put that. I want you to know how smart I am, but I shouldn't have to tell you how smart I am. You should just know.
Yeah.
What about Hera?
Have you done much with Hera yet?
We just know that she's Felix's mother. She despises the fact that he exists because he is a reminder of her own infidelity. But that's it. That she's smart, she's a planner, she's cold and calculating. Also, Heracles is going to be a lout.
Well, yeah, usually.
He's going to be the guy who gives Felix a bunch of shit because he's been accepted and Felix hasn't. Don't get mad at me, bro. I'm just telling you. I'm not saying anything that isn't true. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Well, so yeah, Queen of the Gods, goddess of marriage, women, marital harmony, and the protector of women during childbirth. So, hmm.
Get
What
rid of
does
this.
that?
There's no coda. We just need a wrap. No, unfortunately not. I'm trying to think of a person that embodies kind of that cold beauty.
I mean, yeah, all the shit that she was doing to Heracles is wild.
Yeah. Oh no, she's. But I mean, again, it all boils back down to the fact that she has the most unfaithful husband in the history of unfaithful husbands. But I mean, I think that part of that plays into the fact that then that was kind of the whole impetus behind making Felix her son was like, what happens when you have someone who, in a lot of ways, has been the pinnacle of fidelity and has stood for fidelity, who then, in a moment of weakness, commits infidelity, but in that actually has a child. And this child is like this constant reminder of your one fuck up. I like that, Mitch, but I've already used the clockwork porcelain thing elsewhere. That's Valia wears a clockwork porcelain mask because she's a lich and wants to hide the fact that underneath she's dead.
Mm.
But I love that idea. That's why I've already used it. But I mean, that's the other thing about the gods is they're not people. I've tried to get that across with Hades, because Hades both comes across in some different stuff as a giant avatar of death and other times as like 1950s dad. I think Ares looks the way Ares does because it's what they can comprehend.
Yeah.
Hephaestus looks like Hephaestus does because it's what he thinks people expect to see. I'm almost thinking like Hera might look like what were the guys in Transformers with the three heads? Were they the quintessence? Yeah.
Or the Living Tribunal, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of almost thinking there's that when they meet her. Like she doesn't look like a person. Like maybe that she can't even afford to look like a person because of this. Because if she has to confront this life that she made, she'd have a much harder time destroying it. Because the real conflict here is how do the characters get her to let her guard down? How do they persuade her to have a conversation? The secondary goal is for them to convince her to acknowledge her child who loves her, their friend. But the primary is to be like, can we have a conversation because this horrible thing's coming and no one is listening to us, but people will listen to you.
Okay.
So this entire session is pretty much all social encounter.
Yeah, so is this it could be like some, great and powerful Oz kind of shit where it's just, here's this. I'm
That's an interesting. If Felix was a player, that would be a brilliant play by the player, but he's an NPC. So I kind of wonder if. But he's also Felix is kind of NPC wise. I kind of play him like a less over the top version of Hercules from Batman Brave and the Bold. Or excuse me, Aquaman from Batman, who is basically Hercules.
Yeah.
I love that idea, though. Maybe that's all that she needs is just apologize for your existence. I mean, you think about it, what a foreign thing for anyone to even comprehend.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, they're not people. Gods are not people. And that's why I like the idea of her being so inhuman visually. Does that work? I mean, does that
I think so.
So like the living tribunal almost?
I'm trying to find. Let's see here.
Which we can drop hints in here because Hebe's mother is Hera. So, which I always think is funny that she married Heracles, who her mother can't stand. Which in my mind, makes why her and Persephone are friends. They both have overbearing mothers.
Yeah. She's associated with peacocks. So maybe there's something you could draw on there.
I think like the actual look of the peacock court is that.
Okay.
It's like my idea is like it is that super cold and calculating marble museum-esque place.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go in and like the throne area itself is far more ostentatious peacocks. Ooh, Mitch, that's really good. I really like that as well. I think that's what we're going to go with. I really like that. That's extremely evocative. I can't.
So kind of like a little bit like hexadecimal from Reboot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Where she's got the different masks that she kind of takes on and off for the different emotions.
No, it's really Mitch. I love that idea. I can see them like floating like around her, like Ioun stones do in D&D when you have a bunch of Ioun stones. That they just float around your head. I like the idea too of her almost being a piece of art, and it's stone, so it's like cold and distant, to be gazed upon but not to be touched. What would her unmoored form look like? Oh, that's even better, Mitch. Okay. Her head are the dots on a massive peacock plumage behind her statue. They then will float and take their place upon the neck pedestal to show that emotion.
Yeah, the idea of like the feathers fold together, and then when they unfold, the new
head appears.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely cool and evocative. So oh my goodness, what am I doing? To actually talk to Hera, the PCs need to be able to God damn it. Sorry, I gotta change my playlist here. Sometimes I have music on, it really hits where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have music on and it's like, especially when I'm like not in the best place mentally, it's like all the music just makes feels come that I'm not really prepared for.
Ah. Yeah.
I don't like that. So bear with me for a moment while I try to find something. That's not it either. I have a playlist I'm looking for, and I don't know why I can't find it. Ah, there you are, you scallywag. All right. So what should be the crux of how they can get her? So my thought is like they have to be able to convince her, and they can use like Ares is the negative and Hephaestus is the positive, like kind of convincing them to side with them to kind of prod her into giving them a private audience rather than a public discussion. Because I think also like one thing is there's people in the court.
Oh yeah. So there's
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I love the idea. How are you, by the way, like, how are you doing your Githyanki? Like, what is the, are you doing a voice? And if so, like what is that? What is that like? Because my Githyankis all sound like Boris and Natasha. They're always out to get the moose and squirrel.
Yeah, what's the approach here for the players? How is getting in with those individuals?
Because I also want
they're trying to stop. What are they trying to warn everybody of?
There's these things that were basically gods that were there during the Dawn War that kind of got tossed into the blind eternities, which is like the space between space, who have now come back and they're unmaking everything.
Okay. Well, so then your approach with Ares is, I mean, your approach with Hephaestus is you make things, they're unmaking things. You don't want that. And honestly, it's pretty similar with Ares in that if everything is gone, what is there for you to, there's no war. It's just nothing.
So is war short-sighted? Because there will be a war of unmaking, and it'll be the biggest war.
Oh yeah, I would think. I mean, I don't know if it depends on how you want to play Ares, because if it's, I mean, short term, yeah, he gets what he wants. Long term, he doesn't. I could see there being a bit of that where it's like, well, yeah, I want to piss off my brother, and unmaking is going to piss him off, and also it's conflict. But if he takes that to its conclusion, which I think you could convince him of because he's a strategist.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on if you want to play up the Patrick Bateman crypto bro thing, where he's like, oh no, this is great. I love this. I'm gonna come out on top. I just gotta bet on the margins or whatever. This is and then it's like, no, you're gonna lose it all.
Yeah, there is no winning in this.
Yeah. And that might be, I think just based on their natures, I think the players would probably go to Hephaestus anyway, but you don't know that. So,
well, I think one thing I want to get across is he telling them that, like, if you can get one of them, then you increase your chances. If you can get both of them, you guarantee your chances. So I envision them like splitting into doing the classic, even though it's not technically like splitting the party into a dungeon or anything, it's still splitting the party.
Right.
That's fair. I enjoy the Githyanki. I think that they're very what a horrific culture to live in. One based purely on martial prowess and the fact it's like, be very good because your unliving queen demands it. Your queen who's technically not alive and has just been eating those of you who get too powerful to continue to exist and be powerful. She wants you to get very powerful, but not too powerful, because then you become food. I find the Githyanki also the fact that they're like brazen enough to be like, oh yeah, we're allies with red dragons. Like, we ride them around in the astral sea. Like, why wouldn't we? Like, We make our homes on the bodies of dead gods in the astral sea. Like, we're not to be fucked with. We hunt illithids. Like, in order to like come of age as a Githyanki and a Githzerai, you literally have to go and kill an illithid. Which generally illithids are not isolated creatures. So there's a little bit of a predator vibe to that. And I like the Gith as a race. I like the fact that there was the Gith were one race. They were a slave race, and they revolted. They wiped out a ton of the Githyanki or a ton of the illithids when they escaped, and then had a philosophical difference that caused them to split as cultures that actually manifest them into two somewhat different races. You've got the Githzerai, who live in the elemental chaos, the most chaotic place in the cosmos, and they're monks. They kind of believe if you can stand up in that area and have peace and order of mind, you can stand up anywhere. They're constantly turning their bodies into these perfect machines of magic and martial skill. And then you have the Githzerai, who are like, we're going to go to the astral sea where we don't age. There's horrible things in the astral sea, and we're going to kill them. We're going to make our armor out of ornate silver. We're going to make these silver swords that if you're in the astral sea, which I don't know if this still works in 5th edition or not, but it used to be if you went to the astral sea, your physical body did not go.
Oh.
Unless you went there physically. And if you did not go there physically and you were just in your astral form, their swords, these silver swords of the Githyanki, could cut your cord. And if they cut your cord, there's a chance you died instantly. And if not, your astral form was reeling back into your physical form, and it did damage that way, but it also ensured you could never return to the astral sea ever.
Jeez.
Because you had no silver cord. And that the Githyanki make clutches on the prime material plane to raise their children until they're fighting age and then send them to the astral sea where they don't age in order to have an unending army. I love everything about that kind of oddly sci-fi, I'm thinking, didn't like Kim Newman come up with them? Wasn't it Kim Newman who created them for the Fiend Folio when they first showed up? Now I'm really curious. Who created the Githyanki in D&D? Charles Strauss, who has written a series of books I enjoy called The Laundry, which is about a British governmental agency where they use technology to deal with Lovecraftian monsters.
Yeah.
But it's all about like the bureaucracy of it. And your main character was a hacker who accidentally hacked into Lovecraftian shit because he hacked so hard. And so he was forcefully pressed into the laundry. So it's kind of like Lovecraftian James Bond, except for the guy who's James Bond is really ill prepared to be James Bond. He's more like a gutter punk, and it's pretty great. I think Kim Newman also wrote monsters in that, though, and because that book was technically put out by what was the TSR Britain, which would become Games Workshop.
Oh.
It's weird, like all these, like I was watching a thing the other day that explained how Sega is technically responsible for Sony Entertainment existing. Because Sony used to do, as far as the video game stuff, Sony used to do software stuff for Sega. And then they came to Sega after being successful and said, we want to do console work. We want to make hardware too. How about we partner up and we do hardware together?
I thought it was Nintendo.
No, it was Sega. And Sega basically laughed at them. Huh?
I think they were as well, but
yeah, Sega laughed at them. They were like, no, why would we do that? Keep making software. And Sony was like, well, we got a butt ton of money. We're making hardware. Fuck off. And then they ran them out of the market. I think the PlayStation and the Dreamcast came out around the same time.
Yeah, they were around the same time.
and that I believe the PlayStation came out first, and it basically killed the Dreamcast. It crib deathed the Dreamcast.
Oh, there was the Saturn too. I think that was the Saturn and the PlayStation.
Was it? I can't remember
Yeah.
which one it was. But yeah, it was a fascinating thing to listen to, and it was the same thing as I watched a video yesterday on Project Van Buren, and that was to be the third Fallout game by Black Isle, the guys who originally made the first two Fallout games, and how they came up with all that by playing a homemade tabletop version of Fallout in the back offices. And there are like reams of background, like of lore. And it's all from these two game groups that the same guy, the lead developer was running. I was also the guy who'd been the secondary developer on the first two Fallout games. This was going to be his opportunity to lead the main team, and he did it by running two RPG groups of other developers through it, and then like when something didn't work, they literally had an instant conversation on why it wouldn't work, and then they took it out. And they had just books of stuff. Yep, that's what it was. And then Interplay fucked it all up. And that's why, like, apparently there's people out there who have made a version of what Fallout 3 was supposed to be. That you can go out and play, because it was supposed to be vastly different than what we got. Because first of all, it was going to be like the first two Fallout games, like your classic Baldur's Gate style RPG, not a first person, thing that Fallout eventually became, because those first two games were very much in that vein of that RPG, an isometric RPG. So it's really interesting, like stuff and like all the weird lore and stuff they were working on that was coming directly from the development team, literally playing a tabletop version, and that their characters were going to be NPCs in the game.
Oh, wow.
I was like, this is really cool. Like, this is amazing. So I love to see, like, when I love watching and learning about things that were how creative processes went, or in the case of like Sony and Sega, how you can basically create your own worst enemy by not like inviting them into the fold. Or I watched, Matt Draper did a thing on George Romero's unmade Resident Evil movie. What a clusterfuck that was. How interesting that is you can hire someone to do something and then go, we want you to do this because we basically aped your style and did all this and aped all this. And then when he hands a script in, they go, we don't like this. It's too much. It's too much zombie. Too much of our own monsters on screen. We do not enjoy this. And he was like, what? Well, we want a movie that's going to make all this money. And he's like, that's not why you hired me. That's not what I do.
Yeah.
So I find that to be very, very interesting as well. All right. I feel like I'm losing momentum here. So I feel like we've got that. So we need to figure out, like, what is, I think the nature of Hera, the actual nature, should be the cliffhanger. Should be the wrap. So, okay. If the PCs successfully, means about to have two potential wraps, plead their case to the Peacock Court and gain personal audience. Hera, she steps out of her court form into. That's we got to figure that out. And then we need to come up with really If the PCs fail to plead their case, what should happen? Do they just be ejected from Olympus or from Mount Celestia?
Yeah, I think that's probably.
Where should they end up? Because they can't end up back in liminal space because that's the whole key is other people don't know how to get there. So they need to find a good dumping ground for them.
Mm.
What is Mount Celestia's connection with Sigil? Mount Celestia border to Sigil. What's the gate town? There's got to be a gate town.
Let's see here.
There used to be a whole list of them.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're getting into a list. Bedlam is Pandemonium. Cursed is Carcerai. Ecstasy is Elysium. Excelsior. They arrive at Excelsior. That's the name of the. Transported to the gate town of Excelsior in front of a gate door back to Sigil. They're does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So then we just got to figure out who is beyond all the pomp and circumstance, who is Hera?
Mm.
So she's a goddess of mothers.
Mm-hmm.
So who is like a perfect example of like motherly beauty and grace?
Mm.
Let's see. I'm trying to find though a touchstone Mitch that makes sense for like the players. I feel like those are both too far, a reach too far.
Mm. So more recent, probably.
Probably more recent, which is sad for me to have to say.
Yeah.
Who was the mother? Who was Mel Brooks's wife? Jane Jetson.
Anne Bancroft?
So if you ever read or hear anything about like how she raised Max Brooks, she was an amazing mother. Like insanely good mother. But I also think even that is like a reach. Like the reason he loves audiobooks is because he had such bad dyslexia he couldn't read very well. So she had everything put on audio for him.
Oh wow.
And it made him, he's like, that's why ended up loving books and why I became a writer was because of my mother. He's like, so when people ask me about like, what did I think of the movie for World War Z, I laugh and I was like, I don't know because I already made the movie. It was the audiobook. Which again, I know I've said it before on this channel. If you have not listened to that, listen to it. It's maybe my favorite audiobook of all time, which says a lot because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. The cast alone is insane. And that book is incredible. For the mere fact, every chapter is from someone else's perspective. Like it's like an oral, it's called, it's World War Z, an oral history of the Great Zombie War.
Yeah.
It's, so each chapter is someone else being interviewed about their experience during what happened from a different perspective. So, and there are some wild ones in there. It's so good. Alan Alda, Henry Rollins. God, I'm trying to think who all. Those are the two I always remember because of their chapters are two of my favorites. But yeah, super good. Are we really just drawing a blank, huh?
I'm trying to think of who a good.
I'm just literally going to have to go into Google and put in famous modern mothers. I would not put Jada Pinkett Smith on that list. Also, one of the people on the list is someone named Wilma Mankiller.
Nice.
Wilma, who are you and how have I never heard of you before? Because your name is amazing. An activist. Oh, wow. She was the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit, that's awesome. Also, she has one of the most bitchin' names in the history of all mankind. That is incredible.
It's a great name.
Wilma Pearl Mankiller.
Maybe like
that is straight up wild names.
Like Angela Lansbury, maybe.
It's not bad. Young Lansbury had it going on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for real. Young Angela Lansbury had it going on.
Nope. Yeah, absolutely.
Should like all the Greek gods in their most stripped down form just be like 50s? 50s people? Since that's what we did with Hades. Especially like that, like I guess generation of the deities. Maybe they're all like just like Okay, I'm down with it. Um, where was that? Okay, Dune Cleaver. That's
Yeah.
I think we got there. What a weird road that is.
It's all right. Well, it's about time for me to head out. I gotta go. We're gonna go have some steak burgers. Apparently,
Ooh.
I don't know all what else is being made. I think there's gonna be some hot dogs and some other things. So
Did I send you the ordinary sausage where he made a sausage out of hot dogs?
no, I don't think you did.
Was it him? It may not have been him.
That's
No, he made a burger. Someone made a burger out of hot dogs,
okay.
and I
I
was
don't know how
like,
I feel about that either.
it was interesting. Like it looked really good. And they were like, it tastes awesome. I was like, this is weird but super cool. Yeah, and Cassandra was like, well, isn't that kind of like those brat burgers from a couple years ago? And I was like, yeah, but brats are pork, and these are all beef hot dogs. That's a different thing. It's a different.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, where can people find you doing cool stuff that you do?
Here on the Dave Wonder channel on Tuesdays. I'll be back this week. Last week I had a thing going on, so yeah, that's where I'm at for now. Oh, Xanathar, nice. He's a chunky boy.
It's a beautiful boy.
I did not expect him to be that large.
Can I do it?
That's pretty cool.
Cassandra was like, if someone ever breaks in down here, you could literally just throw him at them. he probably will kill them. He's so heavy.
That's rad. Man.
Also, he came with his goldfish.
Yes. No, which is super cool.
Yeah, I was really very impressed. I feel like they've done really good with the D&D stuff. Hopefully it continues.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where it goes from there.
The longest living. I love things. It is the longest living goldfish ever. Yeah. I love that as part of that lore too, that the henchmen, every time one dies, they replace it because they're afraid that if he figures it out, he'll just murder all of them. Which, makes me infinitely happy. All right. You can see me tomorrow for Down Outlands. We'll be doing this thing that you guys all helped with. And then Thursday is Spoopy Boys. We're going to be talking about all things Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Nice.
I think Colin's been playing the game as well, which is, I've watched some footage and I'm like, interesting, but I don't really know if it's for me or not.
Yeah.
Especially since I bought the Friday the 13th game, we never play it.
I know they have very positive moves. It's
nice.
It's an interesting.
I'll be fascinated to watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then Friday, bad at games. I don't know what we're doing anymore. I appreciate when people show up though. I think it was just me and Mitch this last Friday. Played some Space Haven, had to restart the whole game because there's been 5 updates since the last time we played, and they were all big, and there is so much more stuff. So I literally could not run the game without restarting and updating everything. But just to let you know, we did remake Thicky Steamboat. So Thicky is still captain of the guard, and yeah, there's still that. So yeah, I'm then back next week for this. So we really appreciate you guys hanging out, and I don't know what we're doing next week. We'll figure it out. What? Okay. Anyway, have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye.
Bye.